Welcome to Season 3 of the Weekly Fellowship Podcast. I'm Coach Audye.
And I'm Coach Regan.
We're here with you weekly to anchor and empower women to break cycles,
build resilience,
and rediscover self-worth
through practical insights,
faith-based encouragement,
and a supportive community. We're back with you for another episode of Weekly Fellowship, and today we have our first guest this season, Jenny Krumdrick. Jenny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am a wife and a mother of 21 years. I got 3 kids. Joe's 19, Maria's 17, Ella's 13. And I love working with teenagers. That's kind of my specialty. I stay on call for the Holy Spirit. But I love being a mom and I love helping moms.
Awesome. We're so glad you're here. This is going to be a great conversation. Audie, how are you this week?
I'm crazy this week, but I'm doing okay. Regan, thank you for asking. How are you?
It's been a crazy week for me too. I'm excited to talk about our humble highlights. Humble pie highlights. I think I'm starting with humility today. It's been good though. I'm glad to be here and visit with you guys. And we have a really great topic today to talk about. Let's start with some humble pie. Do you want to start, Audie?
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, TMI. I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant, and our toilet cut out. Like it started leaking, and so my husband had somebody come and he took care of it, and I was very excited. Took care of it in the morning, ample time, and I was like, okay, so that means we're gonna be able to use it tonight. He needed something to dry, and he was like, actually, no, um, we can't use it tonight. And so I want you to imagine a pregnant lady that has to pee like 3 times every night, um, with no access to the toilet. So anyway, so TMI, but we started going in through, we'd like weave our way in through our sleeping 2.5-year-old's room. And by the second time that night, I ended up waking her up almost on accident. And so I was like, you know what? I can't do this. And can't use the toilet. And so you guys, I took showers. I took showers. I peed in the shower twice last night. And if you want to talk about humbling, is getting naked at 3 a.m. and drying yourself off to climb back in bed and know you're gonna do it again in 2.5 years. It was awful. It was so bad. But I mean, we learned. Toilet's fine now. Nothing's leaking. Hopefully, we're not gonna have that problem again. And so yeah, that was a big humble pie moment. And that one it has been the highlight of my day, if I'm being completely honest.
That's awesome. As per usual, your humble highlights are funny and mine are really sad. So I got 2 humble pie highlights today. One, my back is out and it does this occasionally, and so I am literally walking around kind of like a Gumby. Does anybody remember that episode or that cartoon?
Yeah.
I mean, it is like very, very silly. And then trying to hold a 2-month-old who actually is very large, came out very large and is still very large. It's just, it's so humbling because it's hard to like get her to change her, like even change her diaper or to stand up or to like go to the kitchen. It's just hard right now. So that's humbling. And then because the whole reason we put in this humble pie highlight is because we really do want to be real with each other here and just admit flaws. I do want to share too that this week in the background of our work and our leadership team, Audie and I have been struggling a little bit and just kind of like, she's 38 weeks pregnant. I'm 2 months postpartum. We're doing a lot of things for our own families, but also for this business and to support women. And it's, you guys, like, it's just, like that's all I have to say, really. Like, that's hard what we're doing. And so my humble pie highlight is that there were some times when I felt really, really angry or run over or frustrated. And then after I like sat with it for a couple of days, I was like, well, shoot, she was right. Okay. All right. Pick it up. and like, and I even told my husband, I was like, you know what? Because I'd already like kind of vented, you know what? we're gonna do it her way, like from now on, because that's pretty good. He's like just kind of laughing at me, because he is a lot like you, Audie. He is very he's an analyst guy. He's very like process driven, analytics, things that I just it's that's not how my brain works. So I feel like I'm surrounded by people like you sometimes. It's a lot of pressure.
Oh my gosh. I thank you for sharing that. Excuse me. Thank you for sharing that and thank you for opening up that part of the conversation. And like, yeah, I just like this is so raw and it's so real and this is so happening in real time. Um, and I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability and like humility and like the same thing here. I know that I am very much analytical and I'm very much like I know that I'm not everyone's cup of tea and like I said feeling like a wet blanket sometimes and I'm so sorry. And like that's definitely something that I would also like to work on is how can we create a little bit more of a balance.
Yeah,
By
we're
a little bit I mean a lot.
this may not land well for you, Jenny. I don't know. But have you been watching any of the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively stuff?
No.
It's all over my Instagram, so it's hard to avoid. But after Audie and I were visiting this week or today actually, I was looking at our text messages, and they're so thoughtful and they're so real and raw. And I just thought like, oh, this reminds me of Justin Baldoni's text messages to Blake Lively, and I really hope that the whole world doesn't someday try to like analyze our conversation and be put on scrutinized by the whole world. But it was very funny. What
Yeah,
about
well,
you, Jenny?
when we go to court, that's when they have to come out. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Please don't put that on me. This is recorded. It's a joke.
Okay, so speaking of being real and raw, I mean, and way to get me out of the comfort zone. Like first thing out of the gate is like humble pie. Okay, so we're a project household right now, and we're trying to finish up some projects, and we are putting the finish coat on our windowsill in our dining room, which is like it's already stained. It just needs the shiny bit. Okay, so I got from the attic, from the basement, brought up the stain, put it on a piece of plastic on the dining room table. I was gonna stain it in the morning. I woke up in the morning. The can had leaked. It had leaked
Oy.
all over the dining room table. It had leaked all down onto the dining room floor, which we had just refinished in the summer. And it was like a 2.5 foot pool of 1/4 inch thick
Oh,
finish, and it was sticky, and it was like I like freaked out. And I have two daughters' bedrooms out, like in the you get to them through the dining room. So there I am in the dining room, and I am swearing, oh shoot, oh shoot, 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 like as loud as I could. I didn't even need the Alexa. My husband comes running down the stairs. He's like, what's going on? So I'm not really a swearer, and I don't really swear in front of my children, but I think maybe half of the neighborhood heard me swear that morning when I came down. But he was able to keep his cool, and he cleaned it up. We cleaned it up together, but it was difficult to bounce back from that the entire rest of the day. But yeah.
You described that
yeah.
so well. Oh shoot, oh shoot. Like I can see it, I can hear it, but I know what you really mean. That is such a good. Oh, I would have felt that one for sure.
I was gonna
Um,
say, did it leave anything like left over? Like, were you like, is the color fine? Okay, I was gonna say,
Like, yeah, no.
oh no.
But you know what? Everything is figure outable, and mistakes are fixable. So let's just move on and figure it out and fix it.
okay, ladies, let's open up the topic of the day. Today we're going to visit about connecting with our kids, identifying red flags, and we're glad you're here, Jenny, because we know this is your expertise. So, how do you guys want to kick it off? Do you want to talk about kind of our self-image as a mom and how we parent?
I think that's a
Maybe
great thing to do.
Maybe Jenny, you could kind of start us off on that.
Yeah, I've got a great story about self-image because and this was like way back when I started my personal development journey. I didn't even know what self-image was, but I certainly did not see myself as a patient mom. And I'm a really good talker, but I've been working on listening my whole life, and I never realized how important it is to also be intentional in listening to your kids. So, like when my youngest was real little, I mean, maybe 6 or 7, she's kind of naughty. You know how youngest kids can be. And I would confront her about it and I would discipline her. And I wasn't like a yelling mom all the time, but she would cry. She would cry. And I thought to myself, gosh, if you weren't so naughty, you wouldn't be crying all the time. But then I realized after learning about tone that I was the one making her cry because I was unnecessarily harsh with this beautiful little tender hearted, tender ears little girl. Her heart and ears are tender like my husband's. Mine are not. So I was like, wow, okay, this is a me problem. This is a solution that's going to come from me. And so I learned how to work with scripts through my coach, and I decided to write a self-image script about the kind of mother that I wanted to be. And I remember like laughing out loud when I wrote this down. And it said something along the lines of, I am a loving and present mother who listens. And I use kind words and a gentle tone even when I'm frustrated. And I just laughed because that was just not true. Okay. But I worked with that script and it reminded me to pause, to choose not only what am I going to say, but how am I going to say it. And I really was able to turn things around. It was really, and now you can ask my kids, hey, does your mom yell a lot? And they'll say, no, not really. So I think that's a win.
Yeah, that's a huge win. That's a huge win. Okay, so you're making me think about exactly like all the different steps that happened in my own parenthood of how I saw myself, and I'm curious, Audie, like what is your self-image, or did you have like a big shift like kind of Jenny did for like
Yeah.
this is what kind of mom
I
I am?
I definitely like at the very I was struggling really hard with postpartum depression. Right now I have a 2.5-year-old. And then you guys know from the peeing story earlier, I'm about to pop out another one. Um, and so I was really struggling with postpartum depression, and I want to say I was about 6 months in, and it kind of goes along with the story I shared not last episode, I think the episode before about my husband holding me accountable. All of that, there's been multiple times where we've had like sit downs and like big shifts like that. And they haven't happened for the last few years since I've started on my own mindset work. But he was able to, again, sit down with me. And I think it was, again, I think I was 6 months postpartum. And I was miserable, just absolutely miserable. Life was awful. Like we're talking about hormones and our humble pie highlight earlier, and like it's definitely tough. And then you add postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety on top of it, and you're just like, well, I don't know what to do. Like I'm drowning. I don't know which way is up. I don't know which way is down. Um, so we had this whole like kind of argument, and I'd been doing I think the women's school with you for like the master class for 1 month at that point, maybe a month and a half, and I had gained just enough knowledge where I was like, I know that I'm not who I want to be in
Mm.
general. And I was like, if I know am not who I want to be right now, just as a human being, I know that I'm not the mom that I want to be either, but I hadn't been a mom long enough to, I don't think at least, to have formed that much of a self-image around it. And so I didn't necessarily have like too big of a shift at that point, other than realizing I was in control of that. And so instead of floundering for too long, I floundered for about 6 months, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Like, we're absolutely not going to do this. My husband and I had like this big, like, almost marriage ending fight, and like finally coming to terms with the fact that like I had postpartum depression. I needed help. He needed help. We everybody needed help in this situation. And the beautiful thing was is we have the individual power and authority to be able to design that. And I was finally being given tools to do that. I can't tell you the scripts. I don't think that I used other than um really just going back to like my humanity and my worth. And that's where it all started for me, is because I didn't have any kind of grip on that at all. But as soon as I was able to grab onto that, things have definitely changed. Today, Jenny's script made me laugh because I was like, that is the opposite mother I have been. The complete opposite mother I have been today. I was like, it has been a wild ride. Um, but I now have the self-image to know that I know that that isn't who I am at the core. I'm not a frustrated peeing in the shower at 3 a.m. mom all the time. Thanks, Jenny. Um, and so yeah, I really think that um those bigger those bigger moments have shaped, praise God, from the very beginning, the motherhood that I've created. And I hope when Lily's old enough to see that, she'll be able to say things like, "Oh yeah, like my mom also doesn't yell that much." Like I would love that. Jenny, I'm just like, yes, like that is such a huge goal. Is my mom doesn't yell that much, like at all. Um, I feel like at all is not like we yell. We have to yell. Jenny, you and I are
Well,
very similar. It's like
well,
I will
and
shout shoot in the kitchen if I need to.
so like, and here's what I do when I yell. Within an hour, I go back to that kid, my teen, and I say, "Hey, I'm sorry. You don't deserve that. I didn't pause. Please forgive me. I'm still upset, like, because you didn't do your thing, but like, next time we can talk about it a little more calmly." And they're like, "Okay, thanks, mom."
I love that.
And that, I think that makes all the difference. And I hear from clients all the time, I'm worried. I'm worried because I sometimes yell, or I'm worried because I tell them no and they get so hurt and they get so, their hearts are broken, or they get so mad at me, or I become the villain in their story. And I think that the answer to so many of those worries is a healthy family dynamic repairs. And so you get to make all the mistakes you need to make, and so can your kids, as long as you guys repair, as long as we all repair. And that's what was missing from so many of our childhoods one generation ago, was when our parents made mistakes, we all had to pretend they didn't. And that's so
Oh,
different. I mean, technically, that's what like weaves trauma into our body, is when it's invalidated and unrepaired. And so just to, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you're so right with that, Reagan. And like, I'll go to a lot of churches and schools and do presentations because I just love doing that. And sometimes I'll talk about reconciliation. And we have, one person here, one parent, and then one kid over here, and they're holding a rope. And then I cut the rope. And that's like, the hurt, whatever happened, the sin, whatever. And then, by the grace of God, we take a step together and we tie it back. And now look what happens. The two come together in order to reconnect the rope. So it's just like a beautiful illustration that every time you make that repair, you actually are getting closer.
Hmm. And it shows our kids that we're human, and that it's okay to be human. I had a client just this week that was like, I think the reason that I feel so guilty and I shame myself so much whenever I lose it, and any kind of emotion, even just tears, because I never saw my own parents do that. They just hid it, or they turned away, or they sent me to my room, and I never ever saw it. So that closeness, that connection never formed. That's fascinating.
you
Okay,
guys just dropped
go
two
ahead.
big bombs. They were so good. That's all I was gonna say is I was like, yeah, both of those pieces, like Jenny, like I think that it's this whole vulnerability aspect to be able to, like you said, like here we go. I'm gonna step forward, but I think that's interesting because oftentimes, like growing up for me at least, it felt like the child was the one that was taking the step forward.
Mm,
But it's that parent that has to initiate that step forward. And that's something that I want to like encounter and take as I move forward. It's like, no, this is my job. This is my responsibility to make sure that even if like she does something absolutely horrible, it's still my responsibility to step up and take care of her.
mm. And I think what motivates me to do that is because I really, really want to have a good relationship with my kids when they're adults. Like that is a big driver for me. What's driving you guys on repairing and working and learning all this new stuff on how to parent?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. You too, Audie?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we want, I mean, I'm sure there are a number of reasons. I always say, like, I want to get you guys to heaven. I want us to all be in heaven together. But also before that, I'd really like to have a great relationship on this earth. So let's learn some stuff so we can do that. Because it wasn't necessarily common knowledge for the one generation ago. So learning new ways to connect with our kids. What's your favorite way to connect with your kids?
Well, oh,
I guess,
gosh,
yeah.
um, just from what you were saying, there's almost like two levels. There's like the communication, like what is the message? What do I need you to know or do or respond to? Like that's the superficial layer. But what's underneath that is the emotion. And like I'm just learning this kind of now in the last year or two of how essential it is to be able to create that safe place for them to convey their emotions and like just be as is. Because I'll tell you, like toddlers, they have a lot of emotions, but teenagers, yeah, they have even more emotions. So I don't know, like, so to connect emotionally with my kids is, I think, my favorite way.
So how do you do that?
Hold it by holding space and being a good listener and just being present and like putting the thing down. Like I remember when Ella was really little, I'm in the kitchen, I was cutting carrots. I was like, probably multitasking, doing, the 5 things that moms have to do every hour. And she was trying to get my attention and she grabbed my hand. Thankfully, it wasn't the hand that the knife was in. And she pulled me down close to her and she puts her hands on my face and she said, "Look at me." And this girl was serious. So I was like, okay, Jenny, it's time to press pause on whatever else I think that is important right now because this girl needs to be center stage with my attention, my time. So, like, moms, is it your phone? Do you need to put your phone down? Is it the remote? Put the remote down? Like, I don't know what it is for you that takes us away from being fully present to our kids and our teens.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes it's good things. Sometimes it's cooking and cleaning and running errands and going to sporting events and going to their and grocery shopping and all the other things. Sometimes it's good things. And so finding a way to connect even amongst the busyness of our life is pretty, I think that's where a lot of us struggle. Something that our family put in because I honestly, and I didn't share my self image as a mom, but what I've slowly learned in all the investing I've done in learning and growing myself as a person, obviously that just makes me grow as a mom. And I've learned that I am highly sensitive and I have a really sensitive heart, like you were talking about your husband and your daughter. And like I have always, my parents said I never got a spanking because I would just bawl if they even looked at me wrong. And I was just very sensitive, and I still am. And so knowing that that is a superpower and it's not a weakness, and really building that, I am like a highly sensitive mother. And so, what did I need most as a kid? Exactly what your daughter just did to your face, Jenny. I needed a space for my emotions. I needed some eye contact. I needed them to say, "What's going on with you? What's up?" And we were just too busy. I have really good parents, but we just didn't they worked hard and they worked long hours, and my dad was a football coach, and my mom was a coach, and for many years they were administrators and worked summers while we weren't working, while we were off, so they worked all summer. And so for me and my kids, since I don't even know, as long as I can remember, we do a block of time that's like almost an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening where we're together and it's very snuggly and there's like hot teas and lots of blankets and the daily readings or prayer depending on what time of day it is. But it's not just prayer, because sometimes prayer is like a thing you have to do and it's good, just like all the other things, but it's also where we just are laughing and snuggling and listening. And I like last night we gather up, hang out, turn the lights down really low, and just start kind of settling in for an hour. And at some point we pray, but then it seems like the kids like slowly just like bubble up everything that happened in their day. And they're like, and this, and this, and this, and this. And they share their dreams and their excitement, and they just don't even want to go to bed. Not because they're not tired, but because they're so busy just spilling out their hearts to us. And that's just awesome because that means they get 7 hours every week in the night and 7 hours every week in the morning. So I know that we won't always be able to do that when early morning cross country stuff and no, don't mean to trigger you there, Audie. Um, but early morning cross country stuff and or sporting events, I know it'll change. But for me and being highly sensitive, I'm like, I will block out time to hear who you are and who you are becoming because that is so, I needed that so much. I still need that. I still need that from my husband. So how are you connecting with your kids?
Well,
Oh,
just
go ahead.
really quick. It can be very challenging to find that time. So like where could we find it when we're driving? When we're in the car, like especially when the kids get older, they just like pew on their phones. And it's like this wall. And I'm like, hey, it's only going to take us 10 more minutes to get home. When we get home, you can do whatever you want. But while we're in the car, let's chat. Would you mind putting your phone down? Or be our DJ, you put some music on, and then we can chat about your day. How about that?
That's so good, Jenny. Because it's going to get a lot harder. I have an 8 and 10-year-old. It's going to be a lot. They still think I hung the moon, so they want to spend time with me. But man, it's going to get a lot harder. So that's so helpful. Do you have any other tips like that?
Okay, so
Annoying.
the junior hire had a real crisis with some homework. And I don't even remember what the issue was, but she came on and she just plopped on the couch, and it was just like, an explosion of chaos and hurt and struggle. And, like I'm 10 steps ahead of her. I already know what to suggest and what the solutions are, but she wasn't ready for that. And so, whether it's a toddler or a big kid or a tween or a teenager, like just to let them be and let them feel and to like say something like, hey, I really notice that you are looking really upset right now. I'd love to hear about it. What's happening? Do you want to share?
What's wrong?
Right, right. And then like literally just zip it. And just to like get curious, say, it looks like, or I'm noticing, is that where you're at? Tell me about that. Tell me more. And then just to like repeat and affirm, well, this is what I hear you saying. You are really upset because that was really difficult. That sounds like it's really hard. And just to let them know that you're just there with them in it. And it doesn't take long unless it's like a really bad issue that like, okay, just giving them that space to feel it is going to help them heal it. And this is something I learned probably from Regan, that emotions were not made to be fixed. They're made to be felt. So, I mean, as moms, we want to fix our kids' problems, but we actually stunt their growth. Because in order for them to become self-sufficient, creative, problem-solving, decisive people of action, they have to be able to come up with their own solutions. But they're not going to be able to do that unless they're comfortable processing, feeling, and healing the emotional stuff that kind of gets us, like traps us, gets in our way.
I have chills because this starts at, Audie's got a 2-year-old and about to have a new baby. This starts at that age when we like, they're not having crises, right? Like they're not having these big social faux pas in front of everyone that's like really embarrassing or anything yet. It's just these tiny little things, but we start to already feel afraid to let them feel. Oh, you're gonna feel
Hmm.
disappointed? Like, Audie, do you struggle with that at all? Does that resonate?
Yeah, I think I touched on that. Was it last episode? I don't remember. I'm pregnant. I can't remember anything, and that's okay. Um, but yeah, no, I think I had mentioned or painted the picture of Lily throwing a whole fit on the floor and then like picking herself up and then coming like
Yes.
she just needed mom. She just needed that. And so no, it resonates a lot and it, at first I had mentioned like it triggered me. It was very triggering because I was like you need to suck that up. You need to stop crying. You need to get it together and like I can share a little bit of my day today. We had she has been talking nonstop from the moment she wakes up to the moment she goes down. And my poor pregnant overstimulated brain, I'm having such a hard time. And that's something I realized in that moment is even though I was still frustrated, I still understood. I was like, you're doing this because you need me. And I know that you need me. And I know that you need that attention. And I think it's difficult as a mom because there have been I put on the TV today and I sat her in front of the couch with cereal and I was like, you just sit there. I just need a minute. Like I just need a minute. And I think that tying it back into that self-image piece, I could have totally guilted myself for that, for giving her the gluten-free organic cereal, and gluten-free, dye-free, all the frees, and sitting her there in front of the TV and like having a second to myself. Or I could have been like, you know what? Like that's what I need to be able to give her what she needs. And that it does resonate. It sits and it hits and it's hard because I want to be there. I want to have all of those emotions and take care of everything for her, you know? Just like Jenny said, like I want to be able to fix it, but also at the same time, sometimes I just have to let her talk my ear off. Sometimes I just have to let her roll on the floor and cry and then realize like, oh, I need comfort. I need mom. That's all I need. Um, but yeah, no, that really resonates and it really hits and honestly, I'm enjoying the phase of the cuddles and the lack of communication right now. And I'm just like, I'm gonna soak in every single moment because I know, just like you said, those embarrassing moments, Reagan, I can't imagine what you guys go through as parents. I'm like, I know what I went through as a kid. I can only imagine how difficult that becomes.
Well, I have a really good nugget, especially as our kids get older, every stage and every age and stage. So this is what happened, and especially when they get into the junior high. So I'm driving. I think she was in seventh grade, like, or maybe no, it was late sixth grade. And I dropped her off in the morning, and then I picked her up in the afternoon, and I'm just looking at her. We were stopped at a stoplight, and I was like, "Dang, girl, how did you get even prettier and taller from this morning?" And I just like, it just dawned on me. And I just wanted to share with her. I go, "You are changing so rapidly." I go, "Gosh, every day is new." And I said, your needs are changing too. And it's not my goal to aggravate and annoy you. Just saying. Because I know that happens a lot. So I want you to know that that's not my goal. But but since your needs are changing, I just need you to let me know what you want and what you need so that I can support you in the ways that you want and need. But just communicate with me. Would you do that, please? And I really think that was a Holy Spirit inspired conversation because she was just like, okay.
That's
I
awesome.
love that.
What I want to applaud all of us actually, but just wanting to connect with our kids is for me it really invokes this Audie, when you're talking about your little daughter just talking and talking and talking, that's something I struggled with for years with my own mother, and sometimes when I'm around her I notice I'm still doing it. I'm like begging for connection. I'm begging for attention. So I have to like be aware of that. Oh, Reagan, you're doing like you're just chattering because you're like, hey, look at me here, look at me, like show me some affection, show me some love. And so I just if there's so many age groups to this, right? Like we have parents of adult children too. And I just want to applaud anyone who's even having that desire on their heart to connect better with our children. Because even at this age, I'm still hungry for attention and affection from my mother. It's never too late to reconnect with our kids. And but I think maybe it's cultural, maybe it's generational. There are just a lot of moms who don't have capacity or interest in really getting to know who their kids really are now, today. And so I just love to hear these stories, especially that one, Jenny, of just calling her beautiful and like just being open to hearing how like your needs are going to change and I'm going to be here for that. Like, can you imagine if today your own mother said that to you as an adult? Like, I don't think this is not something that only applies to 2-year-olds or 15-year-olds. Like it just applies across the board.
I think I have a hot take on that. And I think the hot take that I have, it to put it in a nutshell, is that I don't think specifically, especially when we reach teenage level, like with our kids, I think parents don't want to lose the control they have over their children because they're forming their own minds. And so I think they lose interest in connection because it forces them to grow. And like that might just be a situation that I've seen a handful of times. However, I think that when we're backed into that corner and we realize we have to level up or skill up as a parent, we also have to remember that we're leveling up and skilling up like in virtue too.
Mm.
And so I just think it's so interesting because I feel like with my clients, with my own personal experiences and stuff like that, I feel like what I've seen are adult parents give advice that is not taken and is not even taken in a not like, oh, I don't want your advice or whatever, just it didn't appeal. Like it wasn't the desire that God had put on their heart and they go a different direction. Um, and then those parents are I'm not going to give you advice anymore. I don't want to why in the world are you going to give that to me? I don't know if you guys have experienced that. But that's definitely a thing that I have.
What's coming to my mind is that parenting is the greatest way to humility. Like it's constant humility. And like my husband and I talk about this all the time of we tell our kids like we are raising you so that we can be equals, so that when you are ready, you can carry the load of this world, the weight of this world by yourself. And we will be here to mentor you and support you and love you. But our goal is for you to be our equal. And then we shut up and you get to make those choices and we'll be here if you need us. But that's where we're headed. And I think many generations of people were like, I am always going to be your parent, which means I'm always going to tell you what to do and I will always be right. But it takes a huge place of like shifting our minds to being humble to be able to say, no, you know what's right for you, and I'll be here to support you if you have questions or need anything. What do you think, Jenny?
Well, yeah, I remember sitting in the car. My daughter was trying to drive, and I noticed a new earring. Wait, there was actually a whole series of piercings down her ear that were brand new. I said, "Oh, where'd you get that?" She goes, "I did it myself." That's not all. There was a belly button ring too. She did it herself because I'm raising, initiative takers. Okay, so I asked her, I was able to keep it cool. And I asked her, I go, why didn't you tell me about this? Because it's kind of like you're hiding and lying. And I'm not really okay with that. And she goes, well, just most parents would, this or that. And I looked at her and I said, but I'm not most parents.
Mm.
I, I'm your mom and you're my girl and I'll always be. So, how about we stop with the hiding and the lying so that we can stay close and trusting?
Mm. How did that go?
I mean, like, yeah, just detachment. Ha 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 ha. Will it be the last time? No.
That's the humility that I'm talking about. It's like borderline humiliation as a parent. And I've seen that with my sister had kids many years before I started having kids. And I saw her raise teens, and I was going, oh my gosh, like they get to make their own choices that embarrass us. And like, we gotta let them do that. And Jenny, I know you use the word resilient a lot in your programs, resilient, resilient. And so part of that is just being detached from their choices and detached from a lot of their stuff and their emotions and going, you get to feel that and do that and fail, and I will be here to pick you up off the floor when you do.
Well, I tell you, and like the whole thing with my coaching, I specifically coach teenagers. So like I have 9-year-olds, I've done 22-year-olds, and everywhere in between, and their parents, because we all need help. My joy and my goal is to help them to know their worth, so they think positively about themselves, so they can pursue their God-given dreams and goals with confidence and resilience and success. And if just those two, if they can do those two things, if they can know their worth and be emotionally resilient, then whatever life throws at them, whatever critics or bullies or failures or mistakes or disappointments knock them down, they're not going to let it change the fact that they are good and valuable and important and beautiful. That's not going to change their worth, and they're going to be able to say, hey, I can get back up again. I can bounce back. And that's what I do. Like, that's why I do my work with teens.
Mm. So I guess what would be some signs for us, for me and Audie, like when our kids are teens and as they get older, what would be some signs that we are lacking connection and need to kind of grow or strategize a way to do connect with our kids better? Any red flags or signs that we can look for?
um yeah, when they don't come out of their room, when they don't put their device down, and it's a screen, and whether it's a video game or an iPad or a TV, they just get sucked in, and it's these dopamine hits, and it just detach it like it I was going to say it detaches them. That tends to be a good word, but it like separates them so totally from this real world with face-to-face relationships, connections, communication, and they don't want to engage because it's safer not to. And so when there's a lot of isolating going on, for sure there is something else drawing them away from the family, and that's not cool. So yeah, isolating would be the biggest red flag I would see.
Audie, do you have any questions on that?
I have like a full thought actually, and like it's kind of like a flashback from the past. Like it's very well known in my family. Like we've all made jokes about it in my family of origin, where we didn't really do anything fun. Like we always worked. Like there was always a project, there was always something going on. So anytime we'd like go and do something, like that was like the biggest dopamine hit, like the biggest dopamine hit. And so what you're describing, Jenny, is like making me think like there has to be like a daily dopamine connection within the family system. And that to me, I'm just like over here like formulating it, just like you're saying, Reagan, like you with those 2 hours are giving those kids a daily dopamine hit. Like, yeah, you're also getting in there and you're like, oh, I don't want to pray, or like whatever they might complain about or say. Like maybe there's chores that you guys are doing at the same time too, but regardless, like I'm sure that, and I would love to hear more, you're doing something that's making that a family thing. Like, and that just sounds really, really appealing to be able to implement in my own. Because, yeah, if you still see me as, like, if you only see your parent as the authority figure or somebody who's going to work you to the bone or like whatever it is, then that's no fun. But like part of being a parent is also being fun. And I think that that gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, especially as they get older. The fun and when they're little is like safety and security and snuggles and connection and reading books. We just actually we're very limited screen time in our house, but we just actually shifted, and I am at night. I'm turning in our hour just for like part of it. We are doing, we're going on YouTube on the TV and doing trivia. So we'll do like Lord of the Rings trivia games, and we're all like shouting it out and screaming. But that is what my kids have shifted into a new season, and they're like, we want more than just safety. We want fun, and so that's where we are right now. Is like Harry Potter trivia, and we're like, just screaming, it's Snape, and like elbowing each other like over, trying to, and that's just it is, and honestly, it's fun for me too, because nobody likes to force their kids to do something they don't want to do. So instead, it's like, let's find something you do want to do. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
It is
and
good
when
fun.
when they know what real fun is, then they're gonna like be repelled by those toxic teenage friends that are just into destructive fun, and they're gonna be like,
Yeah,
"That is not worth my time. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. I'm out of here." Because they know
I love that.
what real joy is and where it comes from, and it certainly isn't from getting into trouble and the next substance and the next hit or whatever. Like they're gonna know.
Yes. Well, I don't remember where I read this. It's been a long time. It's like an early parenting book, or maybe you guys will know, but it was like you have to be with teenagers and with young adults, you have to be more fun than they have to like you more than they like their peers. And that's hard. They have to like you more than they like their peers. And you don't think so?
I that's a different perspective. That
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, just since you said that, just it was made me think of it because you're saying that they'll recognize gross peers, right? They'll recognize gross behaviors and be like, not for me, because I like the sense of the high quality version that I get with my parents. So so maybe they found good. Your kids just have good peers, Okay.
That's definitely a good one.
So if anybody has any questions on this, we can always, all of our listeners can go to our website. And Audie, will you do that part?
Yeah, so you can go to the risingtidefellowship.com and you can click on podcast. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you will find a big old button that says the fellowship forum and you can ask us questions. And your question will be featured anonymously
Anonymously.
anonymously on we can answer it, we can speak to it, and like I said, we might even bring on a expert guest. We might have to bring Jenny back to talk about it, and we would totally do that because we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from the struggles and the trenches, and again, we talk about our humble pie highlights, and we want you to share yours with us because we can help. We're all qualified to. um but yeah, go down there. You scroll all the way to the bottom on the podcast tab, and there'll be a button. You can submit it.
Awesome. Final thought here. What is, well, an age appropriate way to connect with our kids? And how do we find that out? Like, because they're always changing, right? Is there like a resource we can find? Is there,
That's a great question. I think for me, like age appropriateness, I think it goes back to like we shouldn't be trying to like control our young adult children. And so maybe like connecting them with, I don't know, saying, how's your day? How's your day going? I don't know, Jenny, if that sounds good because you're the only one with young adult kids right now. Um, for me, I definitely love to connect with my toddler. And she's into dancing and singing. She's a rock star right now. I'm gonna have to send you guys videos later. She is a full-on rock star. And so I'll be connecting with her by doing that. Um, but yeah, I don't know about you guys with the big kids and the young adults and teens.
Really, just asking them what would you like to do? What do you want to do? We have a half an hour. You want to play a game? You pick the game. Hey, next Saturday we've got some time in the evening. Are you? If you don't have plans, let's do something. What do you want to do? because no matter how many times I ask, my daughter does not want to go bowling with me. And I feel like I've failed her as a mom because she's never bowled. She doesn't know how to bowl, okay? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, family. I'm sorry, God. But like, she's just not into it. So like, it would be most strategic and loving of me not to force her to do something she doesn't really want to do. Because if she's going to spend time with me, most likely it's going to be, watching Hamilton or talking about Twilight. And like, yeah, I don't really want to do those things, but what I really want is to hang with my daughter. So I'll do it.
You don't want to watch Hamilton, Jenny? Come on.
No. I do like Hamilton, but there was a level of obsession at one point.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yes, totally. That's really wise, though. I love that. Just let the kid lead. Let the kid lead you to what is a good way to connect with him in each season of life. That's so wise, Jenny. So wise.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
How can we find you social media wise if somebody wants to follow you? Where do you prefer to be followed at?
Contagious Light, Light, like the light bulb, because you have a beautiful light. So go shine it. And all my social media stuff, my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook is Contagious Light _. And then my website is contagiouslight.org. So I've got lots of resources for moms and dads to help with your teens, your tweens, your young adults. And like we said here, these are universal, lifelong skills that will help you whether your kid is 3, 13, or 33. So please come and connect. I'd love to talk with you more.
Awesome, Jen.
We'll put your website in the show notes.
Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Weekly Fellowship Podcast. If you'd like to work with Regan, you can learn more about her on her website at reganclementcoaching.com.
And if you'd like to work with Audye, you can find her at audyegonzalez.com. Season 3 is sponsored by the Rising Tide Fellowship, an online community for faith-filled women looking for growth. You can learn more about our mission at risingtidefellowship.com.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.